Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Today we're going to be doing some thrift flips using the new Roycycled Decoupage papers. You can find a full product list in the description of this video and all your crafting needs on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Let's get started. I found this little drinks caddy at the thrift store and thought that it would actually be a lovely table centerpiece with some flowers in it, so I grabbed it. My first step is to remove this metal handle. I'm doing that with a little screwdriver, and I'm also going to take off the bottle opener attachment on the side. After cleaning, I'm going to give it 2 coats of Dixie Belle's cotton chalk mineral paint. This is a lovely bright white, and as I'm painting, I'm not being careful to get full coverage. I actually really want this to be more of a weathered finish. On my second coat, I am filling in a little bit more of the gaps, and on the sides we're going to be doing some decoupage, so I'm going to make sure that I have good coverage in the spots where the decoupage paper is going to go. You don't have to do a bright white underneath decoupage paper, but it does help make sure that your colors are vibrant. Next, we're going to be using the new Floral Burlap horizontal paper by Roycycled Treasures, and I'm loving the beautiful florals in white on this one. I thought that they would go beautifully with this little caddy. So I'm just lining up the paper and working out what I want on each of the sides. And as I'm doing that, I'm creasing the paper so that it will be easier to see where I need to cut. Once I've worked out how big I need it to be, I'm going to carefully trim the paper to size with some scissors. I decided that I wanted to trim it even a little bit more because we have the little wood slats on the side, and I've decided that I want those to just be paint. So I'm folding the paper over again and I will trim off that excess. I'm then going to be using Dixie Belle's flat clear coat to adhere my decoupage paper. So I'm laying down a nice strip of product, not too much, but just enough to make sure that it will adhere. And then I'm smoothing it out with my fingers and also with a ball of cling wrap. So I'm going to smooth out those wrinkles, and then I'm going to keep going and applying the product in strips. It's best not to apply a whole lot of product all at once, just in case you miss a spot and get air bubbles or perhaps even more wrinkles. When you lay it all down at once, this can tend to happen. So I'm just smoothing it all down and being careful not to be too rough. Then on the other side, I'm going to cut out another piece of the paper for the other end. So I'm repeating the same steps as I did with the other side. I've creased where I want to cut, then I'm trimming out the paper with my scissors, and then I will use Dixie Belle flat coat to adhere the paper down, just going through those same steps again. So you can see here that I did have a little bit of excess on the sides again. Now I probably could have just decoupaged and then come back in with a craft knife to trim it, but I just thought, I've got the scissors, let's just trim it down to size before I've got it stuck down. I'm really loving this floral burlap design. It's so understated but really gorgeous. The detail is amazing. Let me know in the comments if you have tried this new design. Once my product has had time to dry, I'm going to come in with some sandpaper, and I'm going to use a downward motion to trim off the edges. So a 220 grit, fine grit sandpaper is perfect. I've also just used a little craft knife there to trim off a tricky area. I then decided that I wanted to add just a little bit more decoupage up the top there to tie it together. So I'm just going to use some of the plain burlap. Again, I'm just creasing where I need it to cut, and then I'm trimming it out with some scissors. And I'm going to repeat the same process, laying down some of my Dixie Belle flat clear coat and then carefully pressing the decoupage paper down and smoothing with some cling wrap. I'm also again coming in with some more fine grit sandpaper to sand and smooth off the edges. Then I'm going to come in with another coat of Dixie Belle's clear coat to seal the whole thing. I decided I wanted to add some text to the front of the caddy, so I'm grabbing IOD's letterpress stamp and some black ink. I'm going to lay out the letters for the words Flower Market. I'm just laying the letters down where I want them to appear on the caddy, and I'm applying them so that I can see the letters the correct way around. I'm then going to take part of the thin mount that I've trimmed there, press it down, and you'll see the stamps have adhered. I'm then grabbing my ink pad and I'm inking up the letters, and then I'm flipping it around and pressing down. I've got one hand holding the letters in place while the other one adds some pressure, and then I'm going to repeat the same steps for the word market. I'll be repeating these same steps for the other side of the caddy as I want lettering on both sides. Finally, I'm going to reattach the handle. I'm not going to put on the bottle opener. I don't need it for the purpose of this caddy. And here's our finished caddy. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think that the new Floral Burlap decoupage paper is absolutely gorgeous. Let me know what you think of this project in the comments. Our next project is this little wooden box, and I thought it would make a great planter box. After cleaning, I'm going to give this little box 2 coats of Dixie Belle's Cotton Chalk Mineral Paint. I'm only painting the outside though, because that's where our decoupage paper is going to go. We're going to be using Roycycled's new corrugated metal decoupage paper. I love this design. It's so rustic. Perfect if you like a farmhouse style. So I'm just working out what elements I want to add, because obviously there's bits of the paper that's less rusty. I love anything rusty and old, so I've picked this side first. I'm just creasing where I'm going to need to cut it with my fingers, and then I'm going to trim it out with my scissors. Next, I'm grabbing my Dixie Belle flat clear coat and I'm going to lay down a strip of product, and then I'm going to smooth it out with some cling wrap. So I'm just repeating the same steps as before. This is the wet method. This is the method that I tend to use the most because it's the quickest. You could always do the iron-on method. It really is up to you and your preference. So again, I'm just smoothing it down and being sure that I'm not getting any air bubbles. I'm not worried about wrinkles because most of the time, majority of the wrinkles disappear as the paper dries, because wrinkles, as you probably know, are caused by the paper expanding, and when it contracts back down, often it disappears. So I'm going to be repeating the same steps for the different sides of the box. So here you can see I am measuring out a piece for the other side. I did make sure that the other side was dry before I started on this side. I didn't want the product getting stuck to the brown paper that I have underneath. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing a piece with multiple sides. You can see here that I'm trimming off the edges of excess decoupage paper with some fine grit sandpaper. I'm doing this on each of my dry decoupage paper on each of the sides before I add paper to the little ends there. So I'm just making sure that I've got off all the excess before I start. So I'm just measuring up the little ends there that I need, and I'm going to cut both pieces that I need, and then I'm going to start decoupaging. Given that these sections are a bit smaller, I am just going to lay down the product over the entire space and then position the paper and smooth it out. Because it's a smaller surface, I'm not worried about air bubbles or missing any areas with product. Once those sides are dry, I'm coming in with that fine grit sandpaper again, just to trim off some of the excess. I'm then going to seal all of the decoupaged sides with Dixie Belle's flat clear coat. Finally, I've decided I'm painting the inside with Dixie Belle's Umber Silk Mineral Paint. I decided to do this because there was some permanent marker writing on the inside. I didn't really like how that looked, so I thought this was a much nicer finish. So I'm applying it with a synthetic brush and a smaller artist brush around the edges so that I can be a bit tidier. So I'm going to apply a coat on the inside, and then when that's dry, I'm coming in with another coat, and I will also paint the bottom. I actually liked the look of the lighter wood showing through, so I'm doing just a little bit of wet distressing here. As I was creating this project, I definitely saw it as a little wooden planter box, so I thought that this colour umber, which is a sort of dark brown, suited this project perfectly. And here's our finished planter box. I just love this decoupage paper. It's amazing how realistic that corrugated metal design looks. I had a few people as I was working on this say that they thought it was actually a metal planter box. Let me know what you think of this project in the comments. Our final project is this wooden sign. I got it for $3. It's quite heavy, so it's very solid, and it already has some attachments in the back for hanging. My first step is to cover the entire piece with 2 coats of Dixie Belle's cotton chalk mineral paint. Again, I love this as a base for decoupage paper. Next, we're going to be using the new Ephemeral Burlap decoupage paper. We're going to be using the darker design out of the two, so I've still got the other one to use on something else. So I'm going to separate the two designs, and I decided that I would do this with some water on an artist brush. So I just used my mister to get a bit of water in a container, and then I'm just making a little fine line to separate. I find that uneven lines just look a lot more organic. Design-wise, it's just preferable. Next, I'm going to start actually doing a bit of tearing. I want this to look like an old weathered sign, and plus the design doesn't fit perfectly on the board that I have, so I've got to make it work. So I'm just using the water on the artist brush to pick random areas to tear the paper away. So I just tried to think where natural wear would occur on a sign, and I've just picked the corners and the tops and certain areas so that it looks like over time this is a sign that has weathered and the surface below is peeking through. And this is just a really great idea if you don't have enough of your decoupage paper to fit and you want to make a sign. You can make it look weathered. This is a great way to do this. I also had those old French wall panels in my mind, or old wallpaper. That was definitely my inspiration for this piece. You can see I'm making a little pile on the left there. I'm keeping all of these pieces. We're going to bring some of them back together up the top and down the bottom. Once I have all my pieces organized, I'm going to start applying Dixie Belle's flat clear coat to adhere the centerpiece. Again, I'm just working in sections, and I found the paper was pulling quite a bit at the edges, so I used my mister to dampen the paper as I was doing this. So for this project, I definitely do not mind if there are some wrinkles. I think it will just add to the look of age that I'm going for. Now I'm going to come in with some of those other pieces that we tore off, and I'm positioning some down the bottom and just again using that cling wrap to smooth it down. There's not really a right or wrong way to go about this. It's really just thinking in your mind what something might look like if it aged over time. So it's definitely just something that you want to play with if you're going to give this project a try. Once I have all my little pieces down, I'm going to come in with a coat of Dixie Belle's flat clear coat over the whole thing. I felt like the cotton chalk mineral paint was a bit too bright for the look, so I'm coming in with Dixie Belle's Burlap chalk mineral paint. It's just like it sounds, it's like burlap, that's the tone that it is. So I'm coming in with a coat of this first, and I'm using an artist brush, and I'm using a dabbing and sort of stippling motion so that I don't have any harsh lines where my decoupage paper is on the board. So I'm just stippling, and you can see again it just sort of mimics the look of ripped paper anyway. So I'm going to fill in all of the areas where the cotton paint is. Once the burlap is dry, I'm coming in with Dixie Belle's drop cloth, which is a lovely antique white, and I'm going over the top of the burlap just to bring in another tone. It just makes it look more realistic, like there's old plaster behind this design. I'm not completely covering the burlap tone. Again, this is just sort of a layered look here. Once the drop cloth layer was dry, I sealed the entire thing again with flat clear coat. I wanted to bring some age to the areas that we just painted, so I first tried using the Grunge Glaze by Dixie Belle, but I didn't feel like it gave as much age as I was hoping. So I did try it out on all of the areas, but again, it just didn't have a deep enough tone that I wanted. So I decided to use Dixie Belle's Tobacco Road Voodoo Gel Stain. This is a water-based product, and I am wiping it on, and then I'm using a wet wipe to dab and wipe off some of the excess. Again, this is just going to give a lovely aged look, and this is definitely a better tone. While the Voodoo Gel Stain is still wet, I'm coming in with Dixie Belle's Charcoal Dixie Dirt. This is a powder form product that you add to make it look like something's dirty. It's literally like it sounds. It's sort of like you're adding some dirt to your piece. So I'm just adding that, and a lot of that will also come off, but while your product is wet, it will adhere. You could also use a wax for this. And here's our finished wall art. I just love how this turned out. This is definitely one of my new favorite papers to use. Let me know what you think of this project in the comments. I really hope that you enjoyed today's projects and that it's inspired you to give the new Roycycled Treasures decoupage papers a go. There is so many beautiful designs in this release, and I can definitely see myself using a lot of them in my future videos. If you enjoyed today's video, I would love it if you could hit that like button, and if you're not already, I would love it if you could hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our projects. You can find all of the products used in today's video, including the new Roycycled Decoupage paper designs, on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.